Huh?
There you go.
First of all, thank you all for coming today. I appreciate that. One of my goals now, since all this happened to me, it's become my calling. 5 years and 3 months ago, the doctors told me, and I quote, they said that you shouldn't be here because most don't survive. And then in that very next breath, they also said, but there's nothing wrong with you. I know, I had the same look, sir. I looked at him like, what? And yet I was there. And they even went as far as telling me that I was a miracle and asked me how I did it. 5 years ago, 5 years and 3 months ago, I had 3 strokes. In 3 weeks, that left me paralyzed. And, you know, considering the fact that I've been an athlete all my life, and even a world-class bodybuilder, and I'm in the business of telling people how to get in shape, because that's my business. And here I am, this happens to me. I mean, for that to happen to me, I have to tell you, it was unthinkable. I mean, how could that happen to me? So to say the least, that was my wake-up call. You know? I was definitely at a crossroads, and I'm sure all of you can imagine. We've all been there. We all have the same story. Same but different. And at that point was when I had asked that question, you know, what am I going to do with this situation that I'm in right now? Because that's a big question. And I was either going to let that destroy me or define me. Fortunately, I had the ability to choose. And that's when I rewrote my story, my recovery story. Fortunately, I come from a background of being an athlete, and I can tell you that one of the main reasons that I had and have had the recovery that I do have is because of my mindset. You know, I was devastated, I have to tell you, when this happened, like we all are and were. But you know, when my emotions, when I got to a point where I could be more objective, because obviously the roof fell in on me. When I could be more objective, then you know, I knew that I wanted to fight this. In fact, I was just talking to Bobby here. The doctors, when they asked me to go to therapy, physical therapy, I went to that. I went to my meeting. But I have to tell you that I only went to one meeting. I never went back again. And I'll tell you why. And this was a game changer for me. Their goals for me were very different than mine were for myself. I got the feeling. Now I don't know if it was accurate. I mean, again, it's based on my opinion of what went on that day. My opinion, I should say, was that their goals were much different than mine. Mine were to be 100% recovered. I got the feeling they were trying to get me functional. That wasn't good enough for me. Now, whether or not I could get back at that point, I didn't know. And that's why when I go on and do these talks, I tell people, listen, it's hard to be in that spot, paralyzed like I was. It's hard to be in that spot and to think in terms of 100% recovery sometimes. But you have to think that way. You can't be willing to settle, even though you might have to. I get that, that's reality. But you have to think, in my case, I had to think of full recovery. So what does that mean? Okay, for me, and you have to understand, being a bodybuilder, we have a very curious mind. We're always looking for new information, and the whole point of that is to grow muscle. Because we're up on stage, muscle guys. Okay, so we're constantly looking for ways to make the body perform. We're constantly, and we do that through training, and we do that through nutrition. Okay, those are huge. So to have that information in my background was huge. I wouldn't recommend people that have this happen to them to go out and do what I did. I rolled dice, and I thought, I can do this because of what I know in my background. This is what I do for a living. So, but the first thing I had to do, like I did with as a bodybuilder, I had to go out and fact find. I had to go out and find out what the heck I was up against. Stroke, I identified my stroke, I gave it a name. It became my enemy. That's how I had to process this, okay? It was me against my enemy. So what does that mean? I needed to learn everything and identify my enemy. I need to know my enemy intimately. I need to know everything about this stroke thing, because I had no idea. My goodness, when I had these strokes, I mean, I had two, just to kind of digress just a little bit. I had two back to back. And I was at one of my gyms, and I was training one of my clients. Well, something came over me, and this is something that I knew it was something, but I had no idea it could be a stroke, especially considering the fact that I'm an athlete. How's this going to happen to me? So that was for this thing in mind. Well, it was. I had two of them. Fortunately, I made it home, and my wife got to the hospital within 4 hours after the first two happened, and they were able to give me TPA. So you've all heard of that. Wow. TPA, it's a clot busting medication. They give to you intravenously.
Only
And
if you have an ischemic.
Ischemic, yeah, mine was ischemic.
If you have a clot.
Oh, I see.
A clot, a hemorrhagic bleed,
That's
stroke,
different.
you can like get that.
Yeah.
Oh, I see.
Mine was ischemic. And of course, it was really interesting being in that position at that moment, paralyzed, and then I'm faced with making this decision on this TPA, because there are side effects and there's some downside. The doctor said if it works for you in 2.5 days, you're going to walk away from this like it never happened. Or you could bleed out and die. It's like, wow. Well, I just knew at that point I didn't want to be like that. I was willing to take that. Well, 2.5 days later, amazingly, I walked out of the hospital like nothing ever happened to me. That was the good and bad news, and I'll tell you why. Because the doctor warned me, he said, listen, you can't do any more bodybuilding, because I had come back from a 13-year layoff. I wanted to see if an old guy could get back in shape again, and I did. But he told me, don't bodybuild. He said, you don't realize how badly your body has been assaulted. And he said, and you make sure that you go home and that you're off work and off everything for 4 to 6 weeks. I about fell out of my chair, because I'm thinking, this doctor's talking to somebody who's average. No, he's not talking to me. I'm an athlete. I'm going to come back sooner than that. But I just said, okay, sir, doctor. Well, I went home, like he told me. The next week, I went back to the gym. I felt fine. So I go back, and I told myself, I'm just going to modify, cut way back. And I did. I went and, compared to what I was doing, my training was really just somebody just having just an easy time. I cut my work hours to 4 hours a day. See, things seemed to be going okay for me until week 3 to the day. I was working with one of my clients. This time I knew what was going on. I felt this before, 3 weeks before, and I felt it coming on, and then I knew. Everything started over again. I went back to the hospital, and they said, this time you can't do the TPA because you have to be, they can do it once every 3 months. And I had this in 3 weeks. Okay, this is when my world changed forever, because now I had to rehab this thing from scratch, and it happened the same way. I got paralyzed the same way. All 3 of them were the same. Two back to back, with the third one paralyzed. But this time no TPA. Okay, so that definitely got my attention. And I took on a whole new approach to this thing, even to the point where I needed to change my whole life. Because as an athlete, especially in the sport that I was in, you have to have extreme behavior in order to excel at that level. It comes with, and that bodybuilding is not the only thing. People who are cyclists, there's just all kinds of sports that that require for you to have extreme behavior, because it takes that much will in order to excel at that level. That was really huge for me, because that's going away completely. I mean, my personality over most of my life has been based on that, because I've been an athlete all my life. And all of a sudden now I'm asked to start from ground zero again. But yeah, okay, so that was my digression. But again, I was talking about fact finding, so I had to find out about what the heck this is all about. So when I went to fact find, you got to be ready when you go to, when you ask somebody a question or when you go fact find, you better be ready to learn some stuff that's not so good, negative, So I go on there, and of course, I found out that only 10% of us make a 100% recovery. Only 10%. I didn't like that stat too much. 40% of the people that have strokes which made me feel better in a way, are people who exercise and appear to be healthy. That started making more sense, because when they told me I shouldn't be there, I'm thinking, well, why am I there? He said all the tests that we did, carotid arteries, everything, no heart disease, no nothing. Nothing. And yet, there I was. So that was disturbing. I almost felt like I would have rather known something.
Because it was cryptogenic, which means you don't know why it was caused.
That almost makes it worse.
It's
Kind of be left in the dark. That's the reason why I had to go out and start looking at the information that was out there for myself. And one of the things I tell people is you have to be willing to be proactive. You have to be willing and responsible for your own result, even if you don't know the questions. And that's a hard one. You have to. You have to go find out. That's where I was. It wasn't that unnatural for me or foreign to me, because I had already done that as an athlete. So I went and researched this thing. Again, 40% of us appear to be healthy athletes. We have them. 90% of the people who have these end up living with a lifelong impairment. $34 billion a year is spent on stroke-related costs. That was kind of the ugly information out there, slap in the face. And that's okay, because I started learning about stroke that way. And I dealt with that, and I said, okay, so keep researching. And here's what I found. I found, in addition to so when I did my rehab, I did it all myself. At my gym, at my home, all the while learning how to rehab. I started learning about non-traditional therapies that were out there, in addition to the mainstream. You can basically consider that what I was doing at my gym for myself and my own training to get myself back was what I would have been doing at a physical therapy center, for the most part. Okay. And again, I have to tell you, I learned something real fascinating about the body along the way here when I was rehabbing myself. In bodybuilding, we had blind faith, and we were taught, in order for muscle to grow, you need to link the mind to the muscle to make your body more efficient. Well, when you're healthy, it's more blind faith. And so when we're doing the exercises, we're going to link the mind to the muscle. And we don't know if it really is something that does happen at that point. I didn't know that, but I sure as heck learned that for being paralyzed. And I applied those very techniques. I learned some of these techniques when I was traveling in Bulgaria, and they said the repetition is the mother's skill. That is what links the mind to the muscle. Okay? Repetition is the mother's skill. Get out and do the work, in other words. Well, when I was paralyzed, I'd have my wife come in, and I just applied those techniques. So I said I couldn't move my arm. I said, come in and just grab my arm and just start moving for me. Just start moving. And I was just watching it, visually just watching the body do the exercise. I couldn't move it. She was doing it all, but I was watching it. Again, you have to have great faith in stuff like this. You got to believe. Unbelievably, we go every morning, this is what I would do. And unbelievably, at around 21 days, because your body works in in 21-day cycles. And all that means is when you do something for 21 days straight, your body's going to start adapting to that environment. This is part of your body's fight or flight nervous system. It does this for you. It does this to protect you. That's what it does. So I had to do that. Lo and behold, around 3 weeks, I get up. And you know how you can just know sometimes when you can do something? On that day, I sat down and I said, I can do this. And it sure did. I took my arm and all of a sudden it was so, but I have to tell you, when that happened, that was that mind connecting to that muscle. I knew at that point I had a really winning chance to get myself back. Now it was just a matter of time, and then me being willing to put the time in. Because most people don't really realize how much time you have to put in to get yourself back. It's a war. Baby steps. You know, I'm sure you all are there. I was telling Dana that it took me 2 years from everyday rehab to like this, so I could feed myself. 2 years to feed myself, and I did all kinds of crazy stuff. I tie my fork to my hand, and I just kept trying and trying, and I finally did. So all of my motor functions are back now. Now I have still some fine motor skills that I'm still working on, but because of the fact that I started my rehab as soon as I did, that really opened up the window for recovery. What happens a lot of times, and this goes into part of the reason why people don't recover better, is because, and again, Kara and I have been all over the country speaking to, I wanted to see why only 10% of us recovered when I had this kind of recovery. And here's what I learned, and it really was a correlation from the training that I learned 30 years ago. The information out here, in my opinion, is fractured. So what does that mean? It means that when people like us have a stroke, we don't know what the hell to do. A lot of times, we're not sure. And then we have problems maybe getting to our insurance companies to help us out. We get kind of run around a little bit. There's some things that happen, you know? But again, and so there's some reasons why we're not getting better. But the good news is if you start sooner with your recovery, then that window just expands. Who knows? We don't know where that recovery ends now. Doctors seem to think that, you know, in around 8 to 10 months you get most, if not all of it back. But that's not true. That's not true. And I'm here to tell you, don't settle for that. Just don't. And it's hard because this thing beats you down all the time. You know, it's hard. So, fact-finding, and then I also learned about techniques and therapies. I did IV therapy with amino acids. Put a needle in my vein right here, found a doctor. In fact, he's a UCLA grad, and he's up in my area. And again, this is not mainstream medicine, but all it was a concoction of amino acids. All amino acids is protein that's broken down, and they put it into an IV. I was taking what's called glutathione. It's an antioxidant, the mother of all antioxidants.
Repeat that.
Glutathione and alpha lipoic acid. Okay, so when you have a stroke, what happens to your body? You get inflamed. Your whole body, your brain, everything's inflamed. I know from my history of training, and this is how so much, you know, I used to hear this, it's the same but different. I'm telling you, some of this stuff is so the same. When I was training, if we overtrained, in other words, if we did too much work, our body would get inflamed. That's called overtraining. It's so different. The only way that we could make our body work to its max was to recover. We had to get the inflammation out of our body. So we did that by not overtraining, okay, essentially, and then taking protein to help recover. Well, in this case, these amino acids that I was taking, it did the same thing. It lowered inflammation in the body. If you can't get inflammation out of your body can't recover. It's impossible for it to recover. Now, what causes inflammation? Okay, a stroke. Yeah.
I'm here to pick up the parking tickets to ballet.
Oh, right, yeah. Sorry.
You're welcome. There you go.
Sorry.
I thought you had a question for me.
We will have questions.
Yeah, I got mine. As long as I can remember
Did you
them
get
all.
it?
Well,
Yeah, she didn't, okay, just give them back to me, and I'll pass them out.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Did you have any brain surgery?
No, I did not.
What type of stroke did you have? The ruptured the
Ischemic.
or
Ischemic clot.
a blood clot?
Clot. Yeah. So, getting back to the recovery. So what the amino acids did is, see, glutathione and alpha-lipoic acid, their main job, and you can get this through your diet, but doing it in an IV like this is more effective, is the whole job of those two amino acids is to pull inflammation, heavy metals, anything that's toxic in your body pulls it, okay? So I made sure I did that. That was one of the things I did, because I just used some of my logic from my training. Okay, if it was like, I'm sorry?
How often?
Twice a week. I took about, I think it was about 50 injections. Yeah, I just want, yeah. Because I felt it every single time that I took that injection. Because I'm a skeptic for being in the business that I'm in and taking supplements. Because I think most supplements do not work. I'm a skeptic. Some do, and some do, they work very well. But this thing was, I could feel the difference every single time. So I just kept doing it. I wanted to saturate my body with it to get this inflammation out. Now, in addition to the amino acid therapy that I was doing, IV therapy, I was doing eye-light, they call it eye-light therapy. I was putting on like yellow glasses, and they had a strobe light. Mine happened here on this side. So the strobe was actually on the right side of these lenses. It had a certain cadence to it. You can look it up. It's called eye-light therapy.
Eye-light?
Eye-light, E-Y-E, light, eye-lights, they call it. And so I was doing that as well. And the whole point of that, everything that I did was keep taking inflammation out of my body. So I was attacking it from all these different ways. Okay? So I've got the IV therapy, I've got the eye-light therapy, oxygen therapy. The best way to stop a stroke when you first have a stroke is get to a hyperbaric chamber. It stops it. Because as you know, a stroke kind of spreads on you. What I did was the next best thing. I did concentrated oxygen with a cannula, and I'd go in. So what ended up happening, I'd go in, I'd have these eye light, strobe light going on while I was having the oxygen therapy. I did all that together. So I did oxygen, I did eye light therapy, I did amino acid therapy, and I did music therapy. Because music therapy changes the algorithms of your brain, how it functions, the beta, whatever they call it, beta. So I did that. Those are all things that I did outside of what's considered mainstream medicine. And I was really fascinated. It was really interesting when I went to my doctor, my cardiologist. I got a real big kick out of this because I finally saw him in about 4.5 months after this happened. So I had a fair amount of recovery. And the doctor said, so you had 3 strokes in 3 weeks that paralyzed you, and you're this good? Yeah. And he said, well, he's the one that called me a miracle. And he said, well, how'd you do it? I told him. He looked at me like a deer in headlights. What? The things that I did. And that struck me. Because I'm thinking, okay, well, he didn't know like any of that. I'm not downplaying or condemning anybody. Okay, I'm just being objective. It was just really interesting that he asked me and then really didn't know. So as I continue to keep doing my research, I find out that sometimes mainstream media or medicine, they just don't, because they think in a different way, more mainstream. So this other stuff is either sometimes discounted, or they just don't know that it's out there. And that's just sort of the way it is, and that was okay. Again, that was part of me understanding what the heck was going on up there. I had to keep finding this stuff out. So anyway, So I go on, that's all part of identifying my enemy, my stroke. So I knew what I had to do. At that point, then, I knew that I had to go back and do what I call wipe the slate clean. I did this with I work with high-level athletes, and sometimes wiping the slate clean just means kind of reprogramming them from the things they've learned in the past. Because sometimes those things don't apply any longer, because in order to continue to make progress, you have to keep evolving. Otherwise it comes to a stop, okay? So I got to wipe the slate clean with myself. I had already kind of done it, when the doctor, after I had my third stroke, I had partially done that. But now I really did a wipe the slate clean. And I came up with this, it says philosophy that I have, and it's a strategy, and it's based on common sense and principle. And I call it build it from the ground up. Build it from the ground up. Okay? Here I am. Okay, I had this happen to me. I'm going to start over. Therapy that I was doing was working good, but I had to start over from the ground floor. And I'd like you to think of it as the same difference as when you build a house. When you build a house, you put a foundation in. Okay? Because you're only as strong as your foundation. Okay? So this is where I had to do all my work in the very beginning. Very basic. Make sure I poured that cement just right with my training. This is what I got meticulous about my rehab, and I realized that rehab is everywhere. Rehab is something now for me to this day, and I'm pretty recovered. That'll never go away. I do rehab every single day because you can rehab and walk. You may comment on that. Just simply walking every day, great rehab. Opening the doors. There's all kinds of rehab. And I'll tell you something, and I've talked about this. When we're training bodybuilding, we have partners to help us, okay? See? Kind of the same but different. We have caretakers that are helping us now. Now they're your partner. But here's what I learned about training with a partner. A partner serves as somebody who doesn't enable you. They're there to motivate you. There's a difference there. And I'll tell you what, my wife, and listen, she did it out of a good intention when I was rehabbing. She'd want to help me. And I appreciate that. But that was a very fine line of her becoming my enabler. And I couldn't tell you how many times I would say, listen, I appreciate that, what you're trying to do. Let me do it. Let me do this until I ask that I need your help. And I learned something about that, because that was huge. This is something I hear from a lot of other people with their caretakers. And the caretakers are in a real, kind of an interesting spot, because you're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't. And sometimes you're the one that takes the heat, because the person that's had the stroke is highly frustrated. Highly frustrated. It changes you on every level. We know that. Heck, man, I cry at things I never. Speaking of crying, something I learned about that was, because I'm, crying for me. I was born and raised in a time where you don't cry.
That's right.
You just don't. And here I am, just falling apart at watching American Idol and just jealous. I'm just losing it. My wife just looking at me. What's wrong with you? But here's what I learned about that. Every time I got that emotional, I still get emotional, just not as much as not as often, but I still get nailed. In fact, about a few days ago, I just roll with it. But I'll tell you, one of the biggest surprises I got from that was every time that I got emotional and I choked up and cried, a few days later I had a major breakthrough. Major breakthrough. To this day, it still happens. All of a sudden, see, it's a mindset. All of a sudden, I started looking at crying. That was a weak thing. It was something that was setting me up for my next breakthrough. Just think about what that does to just looking at that in a whole different way. Whereas before, I thought I'm so weak. changes my body language, I mean, the whole thing. Now I'm like, hey, when that happens, I'm thinking, I'm getting ready to make another breakthrough. Isn't that something? And that was, every time I've done this, like, see, one of the things that I knew for myself is that if I didn't get back to doing the things that I once did before this happened, because I used to speak all over, I've done this for a while, and I travel, and I've been real self-sufficient. And I knew that if I didn't get myself back to doing the things that I once did before this happened, I would be more paralyzed than being paralyzed by the stroke. I knew that. It drove my wife crazy because, you know, at 4.5 months I said, I'm driving to San Francisco and you're not going with me. Oh, I was scared.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm not going to say that didn't make me take a chance. I mean, at that point now I could drive. I didn't just go from one day, you know, to San Francisco. I practiced in my neighborhood and got my confidence. And then that day I thought, I got to do this because if I don't, and I did. And I tell you, when I got into that San Francisco traffic, it's like, what happens now? I remember asking, what's going to happen if I have one now? What am I going to do? Okay, fast forward, I made it. When I got there, I broke down, cried like a baby, but it was such a great, you know, it's like a feather in my cap. That doesn't mean, because, you know, in the back of my head, I'm thinking, okay, will this ever happen again? I mean, that's always in the back of our head. But here's how I took control of that concern. It's always there, but I've confronted that and I said, okay, so what is it that, I give you some of the problems now. You know, we're not recovering the way we should, and there's the information out there, blah, blah, blah. Okay, but then there are things that I can do. You guys have all heard of the risk factors. Okay, the risk factors of stroke, those are the guys that if you want to minimize anything like this ever happening to you again, or in the first place, you address those risk factors. They include obesity, smoking, you know. Your age is a risk factor. Just getting older is a risk factor. You can't control that, obviously. You can control the quality of how you age by exercise. You know, it doesn't have to be a lot of exercise, but some consistent exercise. But managing, the number one reason we have strokes is because of blood pressure. Chronic blood pressure. Okay? Listen, our blood pressure goes up and down. It doesn't mean that we can't have fluctuations in blood pressure. Our physiology is meant to be able to handle stress. But stress is also the silent killer. So it's about addressing the risk factors and learning how to manage those. So if you manage something that you have some control over, then think about this logically. What else can you do? You have to keep on moving forward. You have to. If you know that you're getting your body weight off to where it needs to be, you know your numbers. I've written that in my book. You live by your numbers. I know what my heart rate is. I know what's perfect. I live by that. I don't check it every day, but I check it frequently enough that I can tell you that number is nails. Okay? And it goes up and down. I've tested it. I drink coffee because I love coffee. I'm not going to give up Starbucks. I love coffee. And I know that I see the number go up and down, but it goes up and down. It's not chronic. The chronic is what's going to get you. You know? So you got to moderate things and manage those risk factors. All of a sudden when you manage that, then if you think logically, okay, I've done that, I'm in good shape now. I went back to my doctor when I went back to my yearly. He said, his words, you're not going to die from heart disease. And not that I had anything else before, but I did a whole, because what happened, here's so funny. All the years I did my training, I never had a hernia anywhere. From rehabbing my paralyzed body, I got a hernia. What do they call those here? An equal? I can't have, anyway, it's right here. Bulges out. This hernia. So before I could go get do the operation, they were concerned and wanted to make sure, because I was going under anesthesia. They wanted to make sure because, you know, that's a risk. So I went in and did a full-blown test. I thought, this is now a good chance for me to see where I'm really at with my health, even though the doctors in the hospital told me I shouldn't be there. So I went in, did all the nuclear, angio, everything. And it came back that I was 35% blocked overall. I thought that was terrible. The doctor said no. He said, we don't even start addressing with therapy until you're about 65, 70% blocked, which I find unbelievable. But he said, you're not going to die from heart disease. That wasn't good enough for me. I walked away from that. I'm thinking, okay, so now what can I do? How can I reverse that heart disease? Or is it possible? Because I think all things are. And I went back in that next year, and all I did was change my diet. A little bit, not much. I started eating the paleo diet. Have you guys heard of this? Paleo diet. It's, people ask, so what do you eat? Whatever you can pick, pull, or kill. Meat, vegetables, fruit. I did a modified version of that because I like to eat too much. I love eating. I used to wait. I was telling Bobby here, when I competed, I got up to 305 pounds in my off season and 250 when I competed. I like to eat too much. And I still do. So I designed my diet kind of around my lifestyle. Obviously what I did, again, addressing the risk factor, I pulled all this weight out. I've been at this weight now for 5 years. And so what I did, I ate this paleo diet, Monday through Friday, and then on the weekend I ate whatever I want. I went back to the doctor the next year, again, to do my yearly, because I do that now, because I compete against myself on every level. That's my way of competing now, is to be in better shape when I go and see the doctor. So I go back and I did my test, and he said, amazingly, you've reversed your heart disease. How did you do that? Well, it goes to show you how powerful your diet can be. Okay? That's a natural way of making yourself healthier. And again, at the same time, I'm not at a place where I limit myself to where I'm restricting myself from all my favorite things. I just do it in a way that's not extreme anymore, it's more moderate. So that was just another thing that I did to keep improving my chances. So again, I guess the moral of that is when you start addressing your risk factors and start controlling what you can, that automatically changes your outcome. And then just keep in mind that the diet that you take in, because if you eat a diet that's high in processed foods, processed sugar, that's an inflammation to your body. It inflames your body right now. And if you've got any kind of like a gluten intolerance, all these things, but that's usually because you're eating grains or processed foods or sugar. That's the reason why the paleo diet, they call it the caveman diet. The caveman diet, same thing. It doesn't have that because the sugar that you're getting is not processed. The fruit and the vegetables that you're taking in, it's not a process. So that can inflame your body if so your diet is obviously a factor. I would highly recommend that type of diet. So building it from the ground up, I made sure that I paid attention to my foundation, and before you put, after you put the foundation, then you can start moving upwards. You put the walls up, and then you put the roof on. I mean, that makes sense, and that's the strategy that I've always used now. I build it from the ground up. I compartmentalize. Okay, when you're doing your rehab, it's really important that you rehab the most impaired parts of your body first in your training. Anytime. Yes, sir?
You mentioned about walking, that it was a perfect exercise. Can you maybe hit a little on how long after a big meal should you go out to walk? Let's say if you...
Right away. You don't have to wait.
If you don't have much balance and there's no attending and you have a record of fall on your head, would you rather somebody waited after a meal, maybe a half hour, an hour?
I don't think that's going to affect my balance to wait that long.
I'm saying for a person who has limited balance right now.
Well, I mean, if it was me, what I would do is I'd first improve my balance. And that would mean that rather than going on a long walk, I would train somewhere in the space right here where I can improve my balance.
I agree. I'm talking about food. Is the old addicts, they used to say, don't go in the pool.
That's not true.
Okay.
No, that's a myth.
I should think that exercise after a meal would speed up your digestion.
Yes.
And so the blood flow to your so our intestines would be less.
Yeah, it does, it starts that process. Something that I learned just recently, again, I'm always studying and learning. And by the way, we can open this up for questions if you'd like, because I pretty much said my story and how I've gotten myself back. So,
Is alcohol a risk factor?
only if you.
In moderation,
In
say
moderation.
an ounce or two a day?
No, it's not a risk factor. You're gonna get, it's more about the extreme behavior. But yeah, so let's open this up to questions if you like. Yes, ma'am.
What are the natural ways to get your amino acid up rather than doing what you did with it?
Good question.
That's a great question.
Eating protein, in other words, meat, red meat, chicken,
Ah,
pork, fish. And I have to tell you what, there's been a misinformation about protein and fat, because when you eat protein, there's fat that comes along with that. Fat was considered a culprit in our diet, and that's not true. You need fat. Dietary fat is very important to have in your diet because it does a couple things. It slows the release of sugar. It maintains, it regulates hormones in the body, and it maintains your core temperature. So you need fat in your diet. It's very important, and you got a bad rap. Because what happened is, let me tell you what happens, this is physiology. What happens is, back in the 80s, they had this low fat craze. They said, take fat out of your diet. Fat-free, fatness, yeah. But what happened is people started replacing that with something. They replaced it with carbohydrates. Okay? Carbohydrates come in all forms. A simple carbohydrate is like a fruit. Okay? A candy is a carbohydrate. It's just different chains of sugar. A complex carbohydrate is a longer chain of sugar, but it's still a sugar. So what happened was we took the fat out of our diet and we replaced it with carbohydrates. Well, years later, the stats didn't improve. We're still obese as a country. Okay, that didn't change. What the hell? They took the fat out of the diet, but still we're saying, well, maybe we're less active than we used to be. That's bullcrap. Okay? Here's what happened. Your body can only assimilate so much sugar. So when you take this sugar in, your body's response to that is your pancreas wakes up and says, okay, I'm going to secrete insulin. You've got to deal with this sugar that's in the body. And the insulin, think of it as a steam shovel. It's pushing that sugar along in your body, and it's having some go to the brain stem, which needs a little bit. It needs to fill up your muscle glycogen and liver glycogen storages. Aside from that, and some of the immediate energy that you need, if you have this sugar in your bloodstream, now you have what's called high blood sugar. Because your body is really smart and it's always trying to take care of you, even if you're not willing to, that's your fight or flight nervous system. What it does is it keeps pushing that sugar out into a triglyceride. You heard of the triglycerides? Okay. Hey, listen, triglycerides is a fat. Your body takes that sugar and it goes and it puts it as a triglyceride for storage. A triglyceride isn't harmful unless it gets too high. So here's what your body does. This is addressing, for those of you that think that you need to eat several times a day to get in better shape, because as a bodybuilder, we always thought that. Eating more times a day doesn't make you more efficient. Eating sooner, sir, like you said, or walking that part of it off, makes you more efficient. But eating more times a day is not necessary, and I'll tell you why. This is something else I just learned. In between meals, every time in between meals, your body does something. Your liver secretes an enzyme called lipase. Okay? It's an enzyme. You get enzymes out of pineapple, for example. But your liver produces it every time in between a meal. And along with that, your body also produces bile, as salt. Well, lipase and bile get together in all this process. They travel up to Mr. Triglyceride, up there where it's being stored. That lipase and that bile breaks down that fat into a free fatty acid, which is something that it can break down, and it redistributes it back into your body as energy. So you don't have to worry about eating 4, 5, 6 times a day, because your body's gonna, all this is going on all the time, even when your body's at rest. Triglyceride and fat are not necessarily bad for you, unless the triglyceride gets above a certain count they take. You know, so fat, I guess what I'm trying to say here is fat is not the culprit, okay? But protein, now, is the best way to get amino acids, because when your body takes this protein, it breaks it down into that amino acid. Okay, it's just the next step that it takes, then it can use it for energy. So any kind of meat basically has protein. Eggs have protein. Very good source. The fat in the egg, they used to think that was something bad for the body. No. That controls the lecithin, the white part of the egg. It controls that. When you put I'm going to tell you something that might be interesting to you. Because we've always thought a baked potato was a really healthy way to eat. Okay? Well, it isn't, and I'll tell you why. Because a baked potato is very high in starch. That's called a high glycemic index value. Well, that starch breaks down very quickly in your body. It does the same thing I'm just telling you. If you get too much of the starch, your body's going to push it out and store it as a fat. Now, how you can make that baked potato a great carbohydrate? Put butter in it. Not margarine. Not margarine, butter. Because we know, now based on what I just told you, fat control, it absorbs sugar. Absorbs sugar. So when you're eating food, see, I don't know if you, like, it happens a lot of times, like when you eat Asian food. You get full and you're hungry pretty quick, because there's a lot of carbs in that style of food. It can be. So when you add fat to that, that all smooths out. All of a sudden your energy levels are going to be really consistent. Adding fat to your diet. Who would
Will
have known?
cheese have the same effect of the butter?
Yes. Anything that has fat in it like that. Yes, sir.
I haven't heard you say anything about cholesterol yet.
What do you want to know about that?
Oh, I was wondering what you were going to say about it.
Oh, cholesterol.
I mean, I'm Lipitor, and for a lot of
Yeah.
people are, whatever. And my doctor said, well, it's not bad when I would put you on it anytime.
Yeah, I think cholesterol is really misunderstood. You know, you have to have cholesterol in your body. If you took cholesterol out of your body, with your diet, if you pulled it all out of your diet, your body would produce its own cholesterol. And that cholesterol is considered harmful. Dietary fat which has cholesterol is not harmful to you. And you have what's called HDL and LDLs. And as long as your HDLs are higher than your LDLs, that ratio is right, it's really not an issue. But there's so much controversy over that. I would just say do what your doctor tells you. But I'm telling you, I'm not concerned about that because my HDLs are in good shape. Yes, sir?
Just wonderful on cholesterol. We all agree 2 eggs in the morning you need to get your motor neuron trucking and grease your brain. What about then if you eat 2 more eggs for lunch?
Not a problem, sir.
4 eggs?
Not a problem.
Even if you're taking Lipitor?
Well, your doctor's going to tell you it's a problem. I'm telling you it's not a problem. I wouldn't go against what your doctor is telling you.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you what I know because I've done a lot of testing on myself. I went on a high-fat diet. You heard of the I'm not.
The thing about cholesterol is that if you didn't have any in your body, it's an insulator to the brain. Your brain would short circuit out and you'd be dead.
Thank you. Exactly. And I went on a high-fat diet when I was training because I hooked up with a doctor out of Canada. He said, fat's not the culprit, carbohydrate is. So I'm willing to try. I'm a bodybuilder. You know, I'm a guinea pig. You know? So you heard of the Atkins diet? Okay. That's a high-fat diet. He coined it as a low-carbohydrate diet to make it more commercial to sell. Because if you go out and say, hey, I eat this high-fat diet, based on everything that we're told, it wouldn't have sold. But that is actually a very healthy diet. Because the carbohydrates is what causes the issue with triglycerides. You don't have an insulin response. Your pancreas doesn't secrete insulin when you have a high-fat diet. But there's a way that you have to do that diet. And it has to do with a certain amount of carbohydrates that you get on a daily basis. Yes, sir?
Can I get back to the stroke a little bit?
Yeah.
Back when you had your 2 strokes and you went back to working out and working again and you were having your 3rd stroke and you knew it was coming, what did you say to yourself? Like, you dummy? you know, what I mean, in your
Well,
mind, and well, what,
I had to admit that the doctor was right, I shouldn't have gone back to surgery, you know? But I had to learn for myself, I guess.
yeah.
Oh, it's
And
tough.
That was a tough lesson.
Yeah.
Who paid for all your, I'm sorry, I
That's
had
okay.
to,
No,
when you were doing your, IV amino,
yeah, I did, I paid out of pocket.
really?
The insurance won't cover it.
And your did you have to find a doctor that would do that for you?
Yeah.
Or was your regular doctor that
No,
would do that?
no, this doctor was, he's a UCLA graduate, but he knows about this kind of stuff. You know, a lot of the people, a lot of the movie stars do this. Suzanne Summers, they do this kind of stuff, IV therapy.
So can the average Joe like me find this guy and just go do it and?
You should be able to find somebody in LA. It's a lot more usual now than it was already 5 years ago.
Okay,
People are doing, you can usually find a doctor, and if you can't, through Dana, I can hook you up and find somebody for you. But yeah, it's more common now than it was even like 5 years ago when this happened to me. Getting back to this,
How did you have where was your ischemic stroke located if it wasn't in your carotid?
I enter my brain. They said it was
Where
brain.
where did the thought travel from?
Didn't say.
So it was cryptogenic, which is
Yeah.
a phenomenon.
They didn't know. They just said it's,
They don't know.
on the MRI, they said, we know they hit you right, it's right there.
You can see it.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you take blood thinners?
No, I never did. When I left the hospital, the doctors, you know, as a prevention, they gave me blood pressure medication, and they told me to do that. I didn't do that. Because I never had an issue with blood pressure before. Listen, I had a small one because when I got heavy like I did,
Yeah.
my blood pressure was higher than normal. But I think he just did that, they did that more of just kind of a default thing that they do. Here's some blood pressure medication, start taking it, and here's some blood thinners. I used fish oil instead of the blood thinner. Fish oil
And
is,
that you cannot do when you are taking Coumadin. Like you have to be very
Yeah.
careful with the supplements.
yeah, you gotta be
when you
careful with
are
that.
Taking blood thinners.
Yeah.
Be very careful with supplements.
Yeah. Yes.
You take
How long
anything
after your
now?
stroke
Yeah, I wouldn't
did
think
did full recovery occur?
It's been, well, I'm still making recovery, I'm still making breakthrough.
Yeah. And we all are.
Yeah.
It's ongoing.
It's ongoing.
like you said.
But I would tell you that at about 8 years, 8 months, you know, I had most of it back. But then I know that what happens is think of it as this: when you're first recovering, it's kind of like you're digging a new road with a shovel, and that pathway is not where it needs to be. And you can do everything, you know, what I call game time speed. You have to develop that by doing reps, and it comes back to you. But it takes a long time. Yes, sir.
Do you take anything now?
No, I just take supplements. I take fish oils, I'm telling you about. I take alpha lipoic acid. I don't do the IV therapy now, but I take supplements. You know, I take
You do your paleo diet.
a paleo diet. You know, I don't take a lot of supplements, but most of my stuff comes from my diet.
I got a doctor, under my neurologist actually, that's loaded me up on supplements and stuff like that, and they're all, is it USP, like, on the label, or USP, that means,
Like it's regulated.
right,
Yeah.
like.
FDA approved.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah, there
it's
you go.
testing.
I mean, really, you just don't know, you just.
I think
I
some.
lost my
What's
train.
you said you were taking a lot of different supplements.
And-
So what were you saying? Is it necessary for all of those? Is that what you were trying to
Yeah, I
say?
mean, do I really need to be taking a boatload of pills every morning and every evening?
Without knowing what you're taking, I would say no.
Vitamins.
Yeah, I would say a good multiple vitamins. I would take just as a kind of cover your base.
And I'm sorry, you guys, I got one more.
Yeah,
She has me on a injectable B12.
I think that's good. B12 is, B vitamins are not hardy. They break down, so when they get in your gut, they're gone. I mean, you hardly,
What is B12 supposed to be?
Energy.
Energy.
oh yeah,
Wow.
excellent for you. Yes, ma'am.
There seems to be stressing to take turmeric and vitamin D as a supplement.
I take turmeric, and I also take CoQ10, which is
And
a,
coenzyme Q10.
yeah.
As a,
CoQ10.
on
And,
a statin.
well, and that's the thing that Dana's saying. You gotta be careful when you're taking stuff like that, because you can have a reaction to that. See, I don't take any of that. I don't take
And
any
don't
kind
take
of,
too much turmeric.
I don't
What
take,
does it do?
There could be side effects.
So
to
about
that.
what's turmeric?
turmeric, it lowers inflammation.
How many
Indian
milligrams?
spice.
It's a spice, it's an Indian spice that lowers inflammation in your body. But it can have effects if you're taking it with statins and things like that. You gotta be careful with that.
How much turmeric a dose would you get?
I take 8 grams a day,
8 grams.
yeah. It's 8,000 milligrams. And I also take another product called curcumin, which is it's turmeric's cousin, but it's a lot more concentrated. So you can take less of that.
Aren't they both the same?
They're like kissing cousins, but the curcumin is more concentrated, so you don't have to take as much.
My turmeric bottle says, take it with pepper, black pepper.
Yeah, that increases the assimilation. That's
It
what we're
increases
doing.
what?
The assimilation. It makes it more effective. See, alpha-lipoic acid, when I was doing my alpha-lipoic acid and that IV with the glutathione on, alpha-lipoic acid is a facilitator, like pepper is to turmeric. Pulled it in at the cell much quicker.
Every morning I have 2 eggs sunny side up, and I shake lots and lots of black pepper.
Oh,
I
yeah.
cover the whole thing.
I eat a lot of pepper.
And turmeric, I shake it
Yeah.
from the bottle.
Yeah. I would say, again, if you're not taking some of these drugs, there shouldn't be any issue, but I'd be careful with that.
And always list these things when you go to the doctor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bring a list of these items that you have begun to take or that you are questioning to take.
Yeah. 'Cause they're powerful
Right.
in ways that when you combine certain supplements and certain foods like little concoctions, they can be very powerful.
Right.
So you gotta be careful when you're taking stuff. Yes,
So
ma'am.
what is the best anti-inflammatory food?
I would
What type
say,
of food?
I would say your meat
Meat
and your
is
vegetables.
anti-inflammatory?
Yeah, all the stuff that I'm telling you about in the paleo diet, it's anti-inflammation. There's no inflammation there.
How do you spell paleo?
Paleo.
Paleo. It's
Oh,
a
paleo.
short, it's short for Paleolithic. Paleo.
diet.
Think of caveman. If you go to like Google, just Google caveman diet.
So the same type like Atkins diet?
Yeah, well, it's similar. There's more carbohydrate intake than
And
Atkins.
paleo?
Yeah. There's more foods that you can actually eat. The Atkins diet was a little more limited. So the paleo has more options that way.
Coffee.
Coffee's good. They've proven now,
It's his friend.
they have actually proven now that black coffee, there's something in black coffee that breaks down in your system that actually counteracts inflammation. Black coffee. And it's been proven now, of course, there's always these things that are done here to prove certain things, but that might change down the road. But black coffee, they say the people that are drinking black coffee actually live longer. But it's got to be black.
But again, this is all about moderation.
Moderation.
Not extreme.
Right. Those old sayings are true.
It's
Yeah.
So many
true.
ways.
It really is.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Did you say that meat was an anti-inflammatory?
Yes. What it's going to inflame you is going to be like processed sugar. That's going to inflame, or if you're intolerant to gluten, that'll inflame your body.
So when you say black coffee, is that versus green coffee, or is that
That's
with
just-
milk or without?
And they specifically identified black coffee.
Without milk, you mean?
And that's it. Yeah, no milk. Milk is
No
got,
cream, no sugar.
yeah, that's got the carbohydrates.
Ah.
Sugar.
And cream, you said, is a gluten, or sugar is a gluten?
No, not sugar. It's processed. Eating processed foods has gluten in it. They're taking all that out now. By the way, you can get it without gluten-free. Yes, ma'am.
Coffee. I have a reflux problem, so I drink something called kava, low acid coffee, anything like that.
No, I don't. Does it help you?
Well, I don't know, but.
Don't know why you take it.
I have a question. I know a lot of people that take the energy drinks,
Yeah.
which have a bad rap
Yeah.
of having a lot of bad things.
Those energy drinks are mainly sugar. A lot of them.
Well, but they speed up your
Yeah.
heart, and that can cause stroke and that.
True.
Do
Yeah, that's
you
true.
tap into any of that or not?
Yeah, I haven't done the energy drinks, but I know that the reason why people are having trouble with those, I'm telling you, is usually because they're just doing too many of those. It's just overuse. Your body shuts down. You know, if you're moderate about that stuff, you're probably not
One
gonna
is
have a trouble.
fine, probably.
Yeah, you know.
Or is not.
Yeah, and those, a lot of times, if you take a look at these protein supplements or these weight gainers, if you take a look at the first ingredient or second ingredient, sugar. Sugar is an issue.
It's your enemy.
I would say the sugar is your enemy, not fat or protein. Yes, sir.
What do you think about
Sugar is
creatine?
the enemy.
I think creatine's good. It's something that basically creatine does is it keeps the water in the muscle longer. That's the reason why it's an enhancement when you're training. They do it for pre-workouts. Because what happens is you start getting dehydrated and then you start losing performance. So if you can keep water in your body and in that muscle, because your body's compromised of water, 60% or something like that, the muscle 67%, the longer you can keep the water in the muscle hydrated, yeah, you're going to be more efficient that way. So in that sense, I would say yes. I used to take creatine all the time. Just in powder. I like powder. I
Do
think
you
it,
recommend the doctor that you went to that did the therapy for you?
oh yeah.
What's, you have a name?
Dr. James, Dwight James. But he's 200 miles away from here. I'm not from around here.
Fresno.
That's why I say if you want to find somebody in the area, I can do a little searching.
Why
Well, I'm
not?
sure
Is
he
he
has
so-
Yeah, he's got a
Oh,
some
right,
connections.
his
Yeah,
area,
I
Yeah,
would think
he's
so.
200 miles away, his doctor.
I live 200 miles away from him. Yeah. I come up here all the time anyway, so it's,
Your doctor.
I like Santa Monica. I used to live in Venice when I was bodybuilding. That's the Mecca.
Of course.
The Mecca by the pool. Oh yeah, I used to train with goals. I know Arnold, all those guys, because I'm in that sort of that. They're a little bit older than I am.
World.
But yeah, so that's what I did. So I like it down here, so I come in here all the time. Yeah, yeah.